Hey everyone, so even though there'll be more videos to this series, I think this is the last major functionality that needs to be added. I suspect anything beyond this point will be more just like devlog updates as far as when I finally purchase the assets that will be the final for the heroes. Tech Dave once again brought up a good suggestion. There is apparently a sale from Cinti on Humble Bundle, and it's like a ton of their assets. So possibly that's one way that I could go. These are the few other possibilities too. So thanks again to Tech Dave to calling out that suggestion. Anyway, so in this video, we're going to really look at adding a lot of games. You'll get some kind of collection that shows what you've unlocked, called a Pokedex, a bestiary, whatever. So in this case, though, it's the heroes that are being unlocked. So what we'll do is we'll have a scene where you can cycle through everything that's been unlocked, and then it'll also let you know that there's locked ones that obviously have not been unlocked yet, and that it won't show you the name. Right now, I'm just going to have a question mark as a placeholder. What you might do is maybe have like a silhouetted version. I've seen some games do that. So let's just run through the way it works, and then I'll show you the coding. And again, it's really just rinse and repeat at this point. It's just, again, using arrays for the objects, using arrays for the names, and it's just having a variable to keep them coordinated. So let's go ahead and run through this. So for now, I have it right here when you're in the kitchen area. I suspect it should be its own separate scene, because right now what happens is when you assemble the hamburger, that immediately unlocks the warrior. So as soon as you add it to the menu, it unlocks the warrior. Same thing for the salad. As soon as you create the salad, it unlocks the mage. So someone could just sit here, make different combinations, and check to see what heroes are unlocked. So this is here for more convenience sake. What you could possibly do is this could be its own menu all by itself. That like once the week finishes, you can review the heroes, and then once you review the heroes, then you'd come here. But again, I wanted to put the link somewhere just to give you the idea of connectivity. So let's just create the hamburger. And I noticed that the views in the last video dropped off steeply. So for those of you who've been watching this series but didn't watch the last one, I added this. So you might want to go back to check that out, because you can now name the items and they get added to the menu. I'm not going to bother naming them here since that's a separate tutorial, but I just want to let you know that that's there in case you missed it. So we're going to add the hamburger, and then we'll click on Heroes, and sure enough, there is the warrior. So this is a single text mesh, which value just changes based on who's displayed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the D key, and that slides you over one. See, you got question marks. Like I said, that's placeholder. You could do something like have a silhouette. And nothing says that you even have to, I'm going to just press S here to go back. Nothing says you even have to have them. I'm just being lazy since I already have the graphics, since I already have the models. I just put them right into the scene. Maybe you would have a still image that you'd have an artist drawer, and it's like a dramatic pose or something, whatever. And you could also put some story here as well. You could do a little blurb about who they are, where they come from, what they do, that kind of thing. And maybe even let them know at the bottom, their favorite food or so-and-so. Now that you've unlocked them, it'll now tell you that. Okay, so now we'll run this again. This time we'll do the salad. We'll add it to the menu. And so now the warrior is not here, but if I tab over with the D key, the mage has been unlocked. And again, she's placeholder. As you can see, she doesn't animate very well. This is a free asset from the Unity store. And we'll do just one more time so you can see that it does indeed work with the different combinations. And by the way, as long as the hamburger is there, that's all it takes to unlock the warrior, so you can put on other stuff and it won't have a negative impact. These more advanced ones will probably unlock other classes. So we'll add that to the menu. We'll add the salad. Go to Heroes. And sure enough, they're both there. And at that point, it's just rinse and repeat, adding however many characters you want. Okay, so now let's look at the coding. I only created one new script. And again, I'm referring to arrays that were created in other script as well. So let's go to Well, first of all, this link itself, we've already talked about how this type of functionality works with the other text mesh. It just has a box collider 2D on it, and it has the text button script. So let's take a quick look at that. And I'm just checking for the name of that object. So that object name is heroes. So in on mouse down, we're looking to see if the object that is being clicked on has the name heroes, and to load this new scene all heroes. So if we go to that new scene all heroes, so here we have an empty GM object just holding a script, and this is the new script that was created. In the canvas, you have a single text mesh pro object. This is the one at the top that shows the name of the warrior. And if you wanted to do a blurb to the side that has like their history, you would just use another text mesh object and then have that be changed in a similar manner to what you're about to see. And I think that's all that's really in this scene is the GM object and the text mesh per object. The other ones come by default, the main camera and the directional light. So let's go to the script. We'll just slide this over. Okay, so the hero DexCon as opposed to a Pokedex. So since we're going to be using TextMesh Pro, we need to use that namespace. And then we're just going to create variables. So again, we're creating an array. So public transform, the brackets indicate that's array, all hero objects. Because it's public, that makes it accessible here in the inspector. And as you can see, I put 2 there. Sorry, I should have just pointed. I put 2 there because we only have 2 right now, and then it's just drag and drop the prefabs there. I did use slightly different versions of the prefab. So what I did is I duplicated the prefabs, and then I made a few changes to make it easier to handle. So like I removed the other script, I removed the rigid body, and I think those are the 2 main changes. So you don't have to do that. You could code it to disable those elements. But again, this is about putting the placeholder functionality into place. You can always optimize later. And since by default they're in a walking animation, that kind of works out. Okay, so public transform all hero objects. That lets you drag and drop the hero objects right into the scene. And let me go back to the GM object. Sorry for jumping around. Private string hero name text. So this is the value that's going to be put into the text component of the text mesh object. Remember how it said warrior and mage? Healer would be the next one. So you just keep doing quote, name, quote, comma, and you just keep adding whatever names there are. So Dark Knight or Succubus or whatever, whatever the other classes are. So this is just a text value. It's a string. Okay. Public text mesh pro UGUI hero name object. So now this is what I was talking about in the last video. I believe it was the last one I mentioned. There's a difference between text mesh pro and text mesh pro UGUI. The difference is the UGUI version is when it's the 2D in the UI, whereas just regular text mesh pro is when it's in the 3D environment itself. So in this case, it's in the GUI level because again, I said we have a canvas and you can see it's in the canvas level. And so this is just going to reference that text mesh pro. So as you can see right here, hero name object, it's a text mesh pro. Once again, it's public, so it's in the inspector. You can just drag and drop that object right here. Next is transform camera, because the way I move from one object to another, because first you saw the warrior, then you saw the mage, it's just a camera moving. To be precise, it's moving 20 Unity units along the x-axis. Why? Because it's nice and simple. So each object is exactly 20. So the first one is at position 0 on x, next one's at 20 on x, next one's at 40 on x. You can use whatever number you want. Just make it be the same distance. That way it's an easy calculation. All right, so we have the animated model. We have the name that's going to be put into the TextMesh Pro. We have the TextMesh Pro object that's going to take that name. Then public transform camera object, again, that's for to control the camera. And then public transform locked object, that's for the question mark, which is, again, just a 3D model. You saw it in the area where I showed you the heroes. And then the final thing is private int array marker. So this is just going to help us keep track of which position we're at. Because again, just like the other videos, we're trying to coordinate multiple arrays to make sure that we have the corresponding values. So if we're having the warrior object, we want to make sure it has the warrior name. If we're looking at the mage object, we want to make sure it has the mage name. And so this is going to be used to coordinate that. And we're going to use one other marker as well. Okay, so in the start section, everything in the start section gets run a total of once. Now, if you have a loop in there, then obviously the loop is going to run multiple times, but the loop as a whole will be executed in its entirety once. So in other words, like here, so for int rep equals 0. So this is telling you that it's going to be an integer. This is the name of the variable, and this is its starting value. Semicolon, rep is less than 5. So again, the name of the variable. And this is the upper limit. If it's less than that, then you want this to happen. So semicolon rep plus equals 1. We're going to increase this by 1 because, again, rep is going to be used just like array marker to determine which position we're at. So that's why it has to be an integer. You cannot use a float to say what position in an array you are. Okay, so starts at 0. And then this is executed. If gameflow.unlocked classes rep is equal to 1, then instantiate the hero object rep version. Okay, so unlock classes, that is not new. We had that in 2 videos ago. And that is in Gameflow unlock classes because, again, this is how we're determining what has been unlocked. So each position corresponds to a certain class. Like this is warrior, this is mage, this is healer. You can have it be whatever you want. And what we're doing is we're just having 0 or 1, 0 or 1, 0 or 1. And obviously the 0 means it has not been unlocked and the 1 has been unlocked. So it's referencing this and then a position in that array. So it's saying if, again, we're starting at position 0. If position 0 is equal to 1, then go ahead and instantiate all hero object, which means that the sequence for this needs to match the sequence for this. Again, we've already talked about this, of the idea of coordinating and synchronizing arrays. So instantiate hero, and to put it, to use the one that is in that position in the array. And if you notice, I only put in one argument here because I'm already saying that instantiate, there's 3 arguments. What is being instantiated, where it's being instantiated, and the rotation of the object that's being instantiated. But if you use the default values for where it's being instantiated and its rotation, then you can just say, use this object. So let's go back here for a second. So what I did is I put them exactly 20 spaces apart because I already mentioned that. So if you take a look, x is equal to 0, x is equal to 20. That way you don't have to do any difficult coding to determine their position. You've already determined their position, and then you can just say, go ahead and use that position. So that's why there's only one argument, is because you're using the default values for the position and the rotation. So if the number in that array position is 1, meaning it's been unlocked, then instantiate it. Else, meaning it's not 1, and the only other option is 0, then go ahead and instantiate the locked object. And like I said, this is the question mark prefab. Where do we want to put it? Well, like I said, they're all 20 units apart. So how do we make this synchronize? Well, we're saying that we're using rep, and it starts at 0, okay? So 0 times 20 is 0. Where did we say the warrior is at? The warrior is at 0, so that comes out to 0. This repeats. Next rep is 1. 1 times 20 is 20, and that's where the mage is. So, like I said, if you put them exactly the same distance apart, you can do really quick, easy things like this without going through some crazy math equation. Okay, so that just rinses and repeats. It does that until it is no longer less than 5. And again, for each position in that array. It determines if it's going to instantiate the corresponding model, well, prefab, I should say, or instantiate the question mark. In the update section, if GameFlow unlock classes array marker is equal to 1, then hero name object.text is equal to hero name text array marker. Okay, so remember how we said we're looking at the unlock classes to determine if the object gets instantiated? So we're kind of doing the same thing. So here we instantiated the object in in the start. Here, with every single frame, we're checking to see if this, or what we're saying is, if this is set to 1, then the corresponding text should be here. I know I'm kind of making a hash of this, but again, remember what we said at the beginning. Hero name object.text, that's this. So the actual text. So we're saying that that object's text is going to be equal, hero name object. So this is the GUI object, and that this is going to be put into the text component. So that's what it's saying here. We're saying take that value and put it into this object. Else do question marks. So again, we're looking to see if the class has been unlocked. If it has, then go ahead and put the text there. If it hasn't, then put question marks there. And the reason why this isn't in the start section is because we're moving around, and it's only one GUI object. It's only one text mesh per object. So if you wanted to, you could have 20 or 25, however many models you have, you could have that many amount of text mesh pros, but I was trying to make it simpler. So we're having one text mesh pro that's having its value be altered based on the position. And then this just checks to see if D or S has been pressed. So this is just navigating left or right through the environment. And like I said, every time you click either D or S, it moves it 20 positions. And that's where this is getting modified. So every time you press D or S, the array marker is being either incremented or decreased by 1. So camera object, so again at the beginning we made a reference to the camera object. Transform.position, so we want to change the position of the camera object. Again, we're moving left or right with the keys. New vector 3, there's probably a cleaner way to do it, but what we're doing is we're saying take this value and add 20 to it. So in other words, wherever the camera is, add 20, add 20, add 20. So it looks kind of messy, but that's what we're saying. We're saying take the position of the camera object, at least along the x-axis, and add 20 to it. 0 and -10 are not changing. Those are always the same. And then S again is just subtraction. And here we're going to minus 20 from the position. So I think that's it. I think that goes through everything. As I said, we only made one new script, and I think this is, again, not the last video, but probably the last major new functionality that's going to be added. I've talked before about I have a propensity to indulge in feature creep and then wind up not finishing the game. I think that I've got this one right where I want it, that I have the amount of features that I want. Now it's just a matter of purchasing the assets and then putting those assets into the game. So we'll see as far as what assets I use and how long it's going to take. I'm on vacation this week, so I hope to get a lot done. Again, I've toyed with the idea of putting this flagged as early access on itch, and that way if you guys wish to support the project, you can purchase it. Again, that's your personal decision if you do or don't. But that funding would be used to purchase the assets. And as you can see from the various asset reviews I've done, I do purchase quite a few. So you know it would go to that purpose. Anyway, so that should do it. I don't think there's anything else major to announce. I think, like I said, this is probably the last of the major functionality, and the rest will probably just be dev logs where I'm doing updates and status updates. Particularly if I do put it up as early access, then I think you guys are entitled to that to know how things are going. Okay, so I hope you found this interesting. Feel free to leave comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and please enjoy the rest of your day.